talk about your family. Just
Interview
everything.
3.
Yeah.
We on?
Yeah.
I think so.
Okay. So I knew that I could not come home. That doesn't mean that I didn't have enough points, plenty of points. But it just, the very thought of coming back to normalcy was so, not abhorrent to me, but so frightening to me. And I thought, how can I come home and face my mom, my sibling, my dad? I can't do that. I just can't do that. I can't do that. So I asked my colonel if I could stay in Europe. And he says, where do you want to stay? I said, well, how about Paris? We have headquarters there, yeah. He said, why don't you go home, son? And I said, I can't go. He said, go home, you can get some help, go back to school. And I laughed right in his face. I said, school? You gotta be kidding. School? Anyway, I went to Paris, I was there for almost a year. And had a wonderful time. Drank every damn bit of wine and Calvados and cognac I could find. Had a fantastic woman there. Lovely apartment, hers. And one day, I don't know what happened. Letter from my mom, whatever it was. And I said to her, je suis parti. And by that time I was speaking pretty good French. And the best way to learn French is in bed. And so, is that recorded?
It's about to
Anyway,
make me
so
blush.
I came back home. I came home. And I was discharged January 13th, 1946. And I went home and I walked in. I looked at my mom, and my mother's hair was all white, and I looked, it was jet black. My dad, my sisters, and I stayed over for about 3 or 4 days, maybe. And I couldn't stand it. I couldn't stand it. And so I got on a train and went to New York. And I stayed with a buddy up there who'd been with me through all this. And I stayed there for a few weeks. As a matter of fact, he was best man at my wedding. And then he dropped out of a coronary at the age of 23, playing ball. Went through all that crap. And, anyway, I came back to Baltimore, and again, it wasn't anything wrong with my family, it was me. So I went to some friends in Baltimore, and I stayed with them. And my mother finally said to me, what is it with you? What have we done to you? Why can't you come and be normal? And she said, I know you went through a lot, but you can come in. And I said, Mom, it's no good. I should have stayed there. And a friend called me who had been to the Pacific. He'd just been discharged. And he said, my father's got tickets for a show at the Lyric Theater. Have I go in with him? I said, you gotta be kidding. I'm not gonna sit through. What's the show? He said, it's called Dr. Herzl, founder of Zionism, starring Maurice Schwartz, the great Yiddish actor. So yeah, it's all in Yiddish. I said, oh, come on. I understand Yiddish and I speak it, but I wasn't about to sit through 3 hours of a Yiddish show. His father gets on the phone. I adored his father. His father was a wonderful human being, and he said, I want you to go. So okay, I went. The intermission comes along, and I say to his father, thank you so much. It was wonderful of you to invite me, but I have an appointment and I gotta go. And his son says, me too, Pop. So we left. But we didn't get past the foyer, because in the foyer, I suddenly said, oh my God, who is that? He said, where? I said, over there, standing on a box. She's not standing on a box. I said, she's on the steps. No, she isn't. He said, oh my God, who is she? This gorgeous, gorgeous gal, all 6 feet tall. Gorgeous. And I said, yes, I don't know her. So I said, let's go back for the second half. So we went back, watched the second half, and finally, it was over, and we ran outside, out in the lobby. Lo and behold, I see she's talking to a man. I said to my friend, you know this guy? He said, yeah, he's a radio commentator. What's his name? He tells me. So I walked over to him. I said, Dad, how are you? Sal Goldstein. I haven't seen you for years. He said, yeah, it's true. He didn't know me from Adam. I said, he says, I forgot your name. I said, Sal Goldstein. He said, Gene Turk, this is Sal Goldman. I said, Goldstein. That's what I said, Goldman. So she called me Goldman for a long time. And I said, can I take you home? She's over here with my parents. So she turned to her mother and father, and she said, I just ran into an old friend of mine, Mother. He's going to take us home. And she was with her sister-in-law, her brother's wife. So we took them home, and that was February 24th, 1946. Never let her out of my sight for 60 years. Married her. Loved every minute of that woman. Couldn't wait to touch her, be with her. And we've been married for 60 years. I lost her 4 years ago. Ovarian cancer. Operated on her. Doctor said she'll last about 3.5 months. She lasted almost 9 years. And we traveled all over the world together. And I said to her, is there something that you want to do? And she said, yeah. There's a new ship called the QM2, Queen Mary II. I'd love to cruise on that ship. So I found out it was in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. I got her in a wheelchair, and we flew to Rio. And we got there just during the Carnival time. The Carnival in Rio is unbelievable. And I pushed that wheelchair, and we went to the Carnival, balls and parties. And then we boarded ship, and she played bridge almost every day. And we sailed for 12 days back to America. And one night, we were at the show, and I said, come on, let's dance. And she looks at me. And I got her up out of the wheelchair, and I held her in my arms, and we danced. And 3 months later, I lost her. But she gave me 3 fantastic boys. And they're just a wonderful family. But you know, there was something else about her. When I was in that camp, I swore that if ever a Jew was in trouble and I could help, I would. And so in 1982, I, along with 5 other people, went to Ethiopia. We were there for 6 weeks. We brought out over 6,000 black Jews called the Falashim to Israel. We would walk them across the Simeon Mountains into the Sudan and fly them out of there. And then I went to Israel and was with the Israeli army, General Sharon, Ariel Sharon, all the way into Lebanon to Beirut. Back. I spent 35 years or more getting Jews out of the Soviet Union, refused. Made 6 trips to the Soviet Union, 2 to Russia. Went there once when they grabbed me, stripped me naked, and put me in a room for 6 hours, freezing cold.
What was that for?
Because they didn't want me there. They wanted me to tell them where I was going to see and where I was visiting. I wouldn't tell them, so I'm just a tourist. And then I had, one time I went in, there was a terrible snowstorm. We couldn't land in Moscow. We landed in Leningrad, which is now St. Petersburg. And we got off the plane, and I went to security, opened the suitcases. He said, what's this? I said, my clothes. He holds up this little coat. He holds up a skirt, a dress. He said, what are these? I said, my clothes. I said, I'm a transvestite. I like to wear these clothes. So he looks at me. And he said to something in Russian. They all started laughing. Looked at me. I said, just put my clothes back. Well, I was taking them to somebody in the Soviet Union. I met her at the Hermitage and gave them to her. But they were stupid idiots. They should have known that they weren't my size. But, so we played a lot of games with the Russians.
And this, what year this is 1982? With the IDF?
No, this was, where, in Russia?
When you were with the IDF, going to Russia, going back and forth to Russia.
Oh, that was That was over a period of time. That was from 19,
You said about 35 years?
that started back in the 50s.
Oh.
And kept going. When I reached the age 70, there was something came up and my wife said, no, that's all, no more. She never complained or never said I couldn't go or do, but then she drew the line, that was enough. She said, you're 70 years old, let somebody else do it. I was president of the Baltimore Jewish Council, which is the overall body here in Baltimore. I was one of the founders of a group called Blues, Black Jewish Forum of Baltimore, BJWS, the Black Jewish Forum of Baltimore. And I was involved in lots of things. And so now I'm a tired old man. But my doctor last Friday said to me, my cardiologist, I'll see you in a year. I said, right on.
Right on.
So here I am. I rode horses for almost 50 years. I had Tennessee walking horses, gait horses. I showed in competition. And I've been out to your stables, nice stables. And I just been involved in a lot of stuff. Don't have time to sit down and just brood or whatever. And then when my granddaughter told me that I should tell the story, I sat down to Baltimore Jewish Council and we set up what is called the Speakers Program. And today, there are probably about 150 survivors, maybe less, in the Baltimore area. And they go out and speak at schools, and a lot of them do. And I'm the only, they call me a liberator. I tell them I'm a survivor also because I'm a Jew. Had I been born in Europe or so, I'd probably been Ashes or one of them. So that's my story. I'm a lucky, lucky guy. I'm lucky to have the family I've got, my friends, and I'm appalled, disheartened, annoyed and upset by what I see going on, the lack of civility we see among our politicians, among people today. Someone said that, I have a very dear friend I've known for over 50 years. She lost her husband a year before I lost my wife, and we've been sort of a pair. And she has a lovely home here, and I have my home. And
Is she the woman in the pictures on the piano?
Oh yeah, that's Helen. Yeah.
That's
And we've known each other, as I say, for almost 50 years, maybe more than 50 years. We lived on the same street when our kids were young. Her husband and I played golf every weekend for 25 years. He was one of my best clients, and so on. So, why am I telling you the story? But she and I talk, and when she gets in my car, I open the door for her. When she gets in, I go open the door. And people have said to me, what are you doing? I said, open the door. Can't she open the door? I said, what do you mean can't? Sure she can open the door. But don't you think that's a gentlemanly thing to do? My children today, my oldest son is 62, 62, and my youngest son's 57. If they were here today, not with you guys, but older people, they'd say, yes, sir. Yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. That's the way they were raised. That's the way they are. And I don't see this, I'm not talking about you people, I'm not talking about young people. I'm talking about people who are running for political office to run this country and lead us somewhere. There is no civility. There's all this stupidity that I hear. They're arguing about this one doesn't know what the First Amendment and the Constitution is. This one, this idiot from up in Alaska is out there preaching whatever she's preaching. And it makes me sick. It makes me sick. And I feel that what's going on here? Where are we going? What's happening? Don't we? We should all love each other. And if you don't love each other, at least respect each other. And my life and my married life wasn't always like this. There were some glitches. But we got through it. And people say to me, how did you live with the same woman for 60 years, knowing you the way we know you? And I said, well, I'm not bad. I said, but There were two words, love and respect. We loved each other, we respected each other, and we got over things. We got over things that probably would have torn other people apart. So that's my thought, and the fact that they're making such a to-do about the Latinos and now the Muslims, and it just makes me sick to my stomach. I mean, every Muslim is not a terrorist. Every Latino is not carrying drugs. You know, it's just like every Jew is not out to swindle somebody. And you know, it's because I've lived through it. I lived as a child listening to a Catholic priest with his collar screaming about the Jews and the Judas and how they're just Father Coughlin. No good son of a bitch was saying it on the radio, of course, no television then. Radio, and I was thinking to myself, how could he say that? Why is he telling me? And that was another reason I enjoyed the Army, to prove that I was as good an American as him or anybody else. So, I don't know how many months, days, years I have left, but I'm not worried about it. I'm not concerned. I'm a Jew by birth. I'm not a practicing Jew in the sense of religiosity. I'm probably as close to an atheist as I'll ever get. But my concern is people getting along with other people. I have 7 great-grandchildren. I have 6 grandchildren. And I just want them to have a better life than I had. And I know they're going to have it. My sons already have it. And, but I'd like to see people be civil to each other. I mean, you know, I still see people, if they see a black man and a white woman, they'll turn around and look at them like, how's that all about?
What's wrong with it?
You know, it's just unbelievable when you see and hear these things. And I don't know. I don't know. So I missed the boat somewhere. Somewhere I missed something. Something went past me.
I think we all did.
Either that or you caught something that everybody else missed.
Cold or cold.
Yeah,
No, I think you're on the right boat.
Yeah. You caught the right boat, everybody else missed the boat.
So, what else, guys?
I'm not sure, because you said that you were over in Paris for a while.
Yeah.
After, were you aware of any of the stuff that was going on, like Martin Luther King and stuff? Because I
Oh,
know.
honey, that came so many years later. Oh,
So.
Martin Luther King was a I'll tell you an interesting thing. When I came home from Europe, I came home with a troop ship. And the ship pulled into Hoboken, New Jersey. You know, as you ask me questions, things come into mind.
Yeah.
It
That's
came
what it's
into
for.
Hoboken, New Jersey. That's where we docked. And the troops came down. They were Red Cross women from the Red Cross, in their uniforms,
Yeah.
and they were giving out bottles of milk, and not cold. What do you call them? Donuts. Well, first of all, they get real milk and donuts. Wow, you know. But over here, black troops were coming down on that side. And when you got into Hoboken, and when I got to Baltimore, I see the signs. Color only, no color allowed, etc., etc.
And this is the first time you've seen something like this?
Oh no, I'd seen it before I went away.
Right,
Grew up with it.
right.
But
But you have to think about it.
where I lived in Fairfield, the only people down there were black people, and to me, they were my buddies, they were my friends. We used to play ball together, we ate together, and so on. They were my buddies. I never looked at them like different. I knew their color was different. You know, sometimes we'd kid with each other and so on. I said, "Man, you've been in the sun too long, Eddie." And he'd look at me and he says, "Yeah, you're white." So, you know, we would kid, but it was not. Yeah. And I knew they couldn't go to my movie, the movie house I went to, and stuff like that. They went to different movies.
Yeah.
But after the war, it was just impossible to to imagine these things are still going on. And so I was supposed to go to Montgomery, Alabama with a group. And I was told no, because they said, they'll kill you. And I said, well, a lot of people, well, not you, because you'll fight. And I said, Dad, I'm gonna fight. There's no use. So I never went. They had the incident at Gwen Oak Park where Rabbi Schuster and Rabbi Lieberman, so-and-so, they all went there to protest because they didn't let black people in. They wouldn't let me. And because I wasn't gonna stand for it. You know, I mean, somebody calls me a name and hits me, I'm gonna hit him back, you know. So you can't do that. You can't, you gotta learn how to, you know, and so I wasn't good for that. But as the years went by, the reason that we formed a group called Blues was when Young, what was his name? He was the mayor of Atlanta, and he was the United States ambassador to the UN, and he made comments about Arafat and how he was a good man, and so the Jews pulled away from him. So the blacks and the Jews, after all the rapprochement they had during the civil rights movement and so forth, suddenly were losing it. So we started this organization to try to bring it back together. And we did a pretty good job of it. As a matter of fact, we would send 10 kids every year. They would go to Israel for a week and to Zanzibar for a week, and come back to the States. So we did, I think they still do, I don't know, I haven't been active. But
I think they do.
yeah, well, so this is, Congressman Cummings runs it for us. But that's my story, guys. What can I tell you? It's been a long haul.
Yeah.
And I promised my boys that if I make it to 90, I will go back to Normandy and Buchenwald. I've never been back there. You name it in the world, I've been there. But I've never been back to those two places. And
Why would you go back?
I promised the boys I would, and I guess I'm ready. Because if I make it at 90, I won't have much time with that after that. So I guess I can go back. I left a lot of kids on that beach. Left a lot of kids in that whole area. And I'd probably like to go back and just say hello. But that's the story.
Well, I was just interested in what after the war. I mean, I know people, a lot of people have like nightmares and stuff. Do you have any?
Find it and they get help for it. And
Yeah,
Did you experience
that
that?
gal I told you about, that 6-foot-tall beauty. Many a night she held me in her arms.
She was your shrink.
And she'd say, it's over, it's done. So, honey, don't, it's all, you're okay, everything's fine. And she was my shrink. And when I was 28 years old, I had my tonsils thick now. And she said, boy, you did it again. I said, well, what? She says, when you're coming out of the anesthesia, she said, you were on that beach, you were cursing so, you were screaming at those guys. And I said, well, maybe I'll save some of them. She says, whatever it is, you sure carried on. So it's interesting because about 5-6 years ago, I guess, I was on my way to Florida, Naples, Florida, and we're about 10 minutes out of Naples, Fort Myers, where we landed, and I got a nosebleed, terrible nosebleed, couldn't stop it. But I got to Fort Myers, they had to rush me to the hospital. And I stayed there for 3 days. And my son Mark lives there, he met me, he stayed at the hospital with me, and he said, boy, Dad, you didn't miss any part of that war, did you? You fought the whole damn thing all over again. So I again repeated, I guess, you know, in my delirious saying, whatever it was. So I guess you never lose it, but she made it all. I was fine, I was fine.
how do you spell your name?
My name?
No, your wife's name?
Jean, Jean. Her
Jean.
middle name, our maiden name was Turk, Turk.
Right.
Jean Turk. Jeannie.
Well, do you feel like maybe there's anything you might have missed that you want to backtrack, even from the beginning of our meetings?
Or you gotta have one great story, like,
Great story.
yeah.
Seriously.
Well, against like German resistance tactics or any.
The friend I had in Paris was 9 years older than me. And I met her. I went into, I needed a haircut. My hair was down around my, I hadn't had a haircut for a long time. So I off the Champs-Élysées, it was a street of Rue de Rivoli. And I went up and I saw this sign, coiffeur pour Monsieur Madame. So I walked in, bonjour, monsieur, bonjour. And I had a uniform on, but I had no insignias on them. I don't know where I got the uniform or why they gave it to me, but there were no insignias, no stripes, no buttons, no nothing. And the French wore that uniform, but with the insignias. So the young lady was sitting behind the cash register, she was doing bonjour, monsieur. And so I told her, oui. So I got a haircut and she said, voulez-vous a manicure? I said, oui. Manicure, damn right, go ahead, do the whole thing. So the young lady gave me a manicure, now while she was doing, I was looking at her, and she finished, and I said, French, vous êtes pour manger, je suis très faim, where can I find something to eat, I'm hungry. And she said to me, speaking to me in French also, she said, are you a Parisian? Vous êtes Parisien? I said, no. So she said, you're French. It sounds like southern France. Vous parlez français comme le sud de France. And I said, well, perhaps Montpellier. Peut-être Montpellier. So, oui, c'est Montpellier. So that was the accent that I had. How I acquired it, I don't know. And so she says to me, you're a moment. So she went over and talked to her sister. She came back. And she said to me, vous êtes très faim? I said, I'm so damn hungry. In English. Oh, vous êtes Américain, but you're an American. I said, yes, I am. And we thought, she said to me in perfect English, we thought you were French. And I said, no, I'm American. You speak French. She said, vous êtes français? C'est très bien. I said, thank you. Anyway, she said she knew of a little place that we could have a bite to eat. I said, well, come on, we'll buy you dinner. In the meantime, the subways weren't running, and so it was after 10 o'clock or whatever. So we went and had a lovely little dinner. And afterwards I said, I gotta find a place to stay. And so we went to a little hotel, and they said, okay, they had a room. So we went up to the room, and we slept together, but nothing happened. Why? He asked me to tell you a story. Why? She had a German soldier who was her friend, and she got pregnant with him.
Ooh la la.
And she aborted the baby, and it was only a couple of weeks, or weeks ago since she aborted it. So she had to be very careful. So I listened to this whole story, and I thought, okay. Well, the bottom line is that we became very good friends. I moved in with her, and everything was going great. And I met her sister, her brother-in-law, so we were a gorgeous sister. And I found that they had been collaborators, that they had worked with the Germans. And I thought, son of a bitch, I could have got myself into something. And then one day she said to me, could you find out whether my friend Hans, what his name was, is still alive or working? You could trace him through the American
Hans, as in he's German?
Huh?
Hans, like he's German?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I said, well, let me see. Well, I was about to. So a couple of days later, she said, have you checked? And I said, yeah. What my record showed was killed on the Eastern Front. And she looks at me, she starts screaming at me in French, vous êtes un menteur, you're a liar. And I said, yeah. And then she called me, was it a Juif, dirty Jew, and so forth. And I smacked her. Never had a woman before in my life, but I had her. And that was the end of it. But a few weeks later, she got in touch with me. I told her I was leaving, I was coming home. That probably precipitated my coming home too. So
I'd
she
say.
said, I'll find, she said, I'll tell you what, she says, here, you take this with you. And she gave me $25,000 American money, which was a fortune back then, and a box full of perfumes from the shop, maybe 25, 30, all kinds of wonderful Schiaparelli and so forth. So I took it, I put it in my barracks bag, and I brought it back to the States. And she was going to meet me. Excuse me 1 minute. So let's digest that for a minute.
I wanted someone to ask more about Paris. I was like, something happened.
He's from Cape Town, South Africa, who now lives in Bethesda.
I thought you meant they just called you from South Africa.
I was like, you should take it.
So the bottom line is that I came back to the States, I had all this stuff, and as I told you, I wouldn't go back to school, but I bought a bar. Not with her money, with my money. And January and June, January we jumped to June, 46. I'm behind the bar at 7 o'clock in the morning on Sunday morning, and the phone rings. It's my mother. Mom, I got a call here from my cell. I said, my cell called? She said, yeah. I said, what? She said, I gave her Jean's number. I said, you gave her Jean's number? She said, well, I thought you were over there. So then 2 minutes later, Jean calls. Marcel called here. I gave her your number at the bar. She says, call me and tell me whether we're still married or not. So I answered the phone. Phone rang, and she said, we guessed it. We said, well, and we talked. And I said, where are you? She was in Buenos Aires. And she was coming to the States. And I told her I was married, so she said, I thought so. I hadn't heard from you and so forth. Well, the reason she hadn't heard from it is because I hadn't heard from her. My mother was getting the mail, and she was burning it. Because she said she didn't want me having anything to do with this woman. She was burning the mail, all letters and stuff like that. So that's nice. Anyway, so so then I got a letter from a lawyer in Detroit, Michigan, representing Mendes and Marcel Atier. So I sent them a check for $25,000. And the perfumes I gave to friends and everything was gifts.
Yeah.
And that was the end of that. Every time we'd go to Paris, Jean would say, I'm going to the beauty parlor. Go ahead, see if you can find her. I couldn't find her. I tried. I sent letters to the municipality in Paris. Could never find her. So she's got to be dead or an old lady. As I said, she was 90 years older than me.
Yeah.
So, but that was a story.
That's a great story.
That's a very great story.
But, so that's a story.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much. You've done an excellent job.
You lived a great life.
Oh, I've got some more to go. I'm not finished.
You've got lots more to go.
I've got a lot
Yeah,
more.
you definitely
I've
do.
got a lot more living to do.
Well, and I hope that maybe the three of us could be helpful in, making sure people are civil with each other. And,
Well, that's
You can do
all.
our
That's all you
part.
can
yeah,
do.
our
Just-
part.
Just tell people and talk to them. And just be civil yourself. It's just.
Yeah.
In the Jewish faith, around the time, I know Judaism, I know everything, but I don't practice it anyway. But around the high holidays, around Yom Kippur, Jews, I know religious Jews do, they will call people and say, hi, I want to wish you a Shana Tova, a happy new year, and if I've said anything or done anything to hurt you, please forgive me. It's done every year. My daughter-in-law, my son calls me, and they say, Abba, please forgive me if I've hurt you. And I said, Adiela, you could never hurt me, honey. She said, well, but it's something that we do. Orthodox Jews do. And I think it's a wonderful gesture. And we don't have to wait until Yom Kippur to do it.
Yeah.
Though
can
some
do
of
that
us do.
And I think it's so important. It's so important.
My mom always taught us to do that too, but we always added the consciously or unconsciously if we've harmed someone, you know. So I tell my friends that who aren't Jewish around that time, and they're like, "What are you talking about?" And I'm like, "Oh, I have to explain it." Like, but I couldn't agree more. It's a good gesture.
But, so that's my story, girls, guy, and
Guy.
guys. It's, I'm sure there's some parts of it I haven't remembered, but it's, I sometimes sit down and think, boy, it's a long time ago. There's a lot of things have been, a lot of water over the dam. And, do I regret any of it? Would I repeat it?
Like we said, thank you very much.
Is that it?
Yes, that's it.
We're finished?
Finished.
And it would be, I don't know, I would like to keep in touch, you know.
I'd like to see the finished product of what you guys are gonna
Okay,
do.
I have the dates for that.